So guys, I want to talk to you about the long run. Basically, I want to know your feelings on doing long runs. Do you do them? Well, actually, I know that you do them. I just want to know if you like doing them, or would you like to continue to do them? Because it turns out they may be overrated. In fact, I found an article in Canadian Running Magazine that asked the question, are long runs overrated? So basically, we're going to talk about how they may be overrated, then we're going to talk about some of the benefits of doing a long run. Okay, that was a pretty good intro. Let's get into it. Okay, the long run. The long run it's a staple of running life, right? Sunday run day, church of the long run. It's just something that runners do on the weekend. Of course, the weekend isn't the only day that you can do your long runs. I think only half the time I do a longer run on the weekend. On the weekends that I work, I do a long run during the week. Anyway, the point is that I usually run a little longer than normal, once a week, once every 10 days. But there's actually a growing body of evidence that shows that this near sacred ritual may not be a necessary part of training. In fact, it may be doing more harm than good. I can't wait to read your thoughts on this one. Okay, so basically us runners, we are generally healthy as far as bone health. I mean, health all around, we're usually pretty healthy. But with bone health, we are usually pretty healthy up to a certain point, because bones, just like our muscles, when we load them, they kind of break down a little bit, but then they grow back stronger, right? We know this. People that have low bone density, they have to do weight-bearing activities. Obviously, strength training is part of that recipe. Running can be another one. However, it's probably not going to surprise you that runners, some runners more than others, are prone to injuries. When I say injuries, I'm talking about stress fractures. Now, I have had several stress fractures in my life, so I'm intimately acquainted with the stress fracture, and all of these stress fractures that I have got have been from running. I've done them to myself. And that's because there is apparently a limit as to how much our bones can take the stress of running. I mean, that has face validity, right? Obviously, we can't go forever. If we keep chipping away at something, eventually it's going to break. But on the other end of the spectrum, if we just sat on the sofa all day, slowly our muscles and our bones would waste away, maybe to nothing. I mean, none of us here are actually going to try that, so I think it's safe to say that if we did do it, we would waste away to nothing. So just like our muscles, when we run, our bones, they adapt to the stress that we are putting on them. However, when you run too much, your bones get to a point where they become desensitized to the stress. And it's sort of like filling up a cup with liquid. If the liquid represents our running and we're pouring running into our bones, which is represented here by the cup, we can keep pouring the liquid in and our bones are getting stronger and stronger. Then the water reaches the top of the cup and you keep pouring the running in, and that stress is just overflowing and the bones are not accepting that stress. They've become desensitized. They can't hold any more stress. So once our bones reach that point where they can't adapt to any more stress that we're putting on them, that's the point where we're not getting stronger. And potentially we could go the other way. That's probably where stress fractures come from, right? Too much load, or at least too much load too quickly. But the good news is that studies have shown that when you let your bones rest for a little bit, so a little bit, meaning 4 to 8 hours, your bones get reinvigorated. They get resensitized to the stress. So you can then go for a run and make them stronger. That is predominantly where the argument against the long run comes in. So how would you approach this? Taking all that evidence that our bones can only take so much stress at any one time, how would you approach it? Well, obviously, you've probably seen some people doing this. They split their long run into 2 runs. So instead of running for 2 hours, maybe they'll run for 1 hour and 15 minutes and 45 minutes. That way, you're filling your cup, you're making your bones strong, making them as strong as they can be until they're getting close to desensitized. Then you take a break, you put your feet up. Some of that stress that has gone into your bones just evaporates. Gosh, I really could have got some props. I could have at least got a bottle of water and a cup, but my hands and your imagination are going to have to do. Then after sitting on your butt for a couple hours, you go out and you do another run, and your bones have resensitized themselves. So now you can go out without the danger of damaging your bones. Your bones are ready to accept that stress. So potentially you could run the same amount of miles, or even more, if you break your runs up into 2 runs over a day. And this is actually backed up with science. That is, science involving mice. But in 2012, a study showed that mice running 10 minutes 3 times a day had the same adaptations as the mice that ran in one 30-minute chunk. So there are so many holes in that argument, I don't know where to start, but we're just going to take it on the surface. You could potentially go out for several short runs and get the same benefit as going out for 1 run. Of course, scheduling comes into it. Maybe it's easy for you to go out several times in a day. Maybe it's easy for you to knock it out in one go. I don't know. You're going to have to decide. But also get this. Have you ever heard of someone called Camille Heron. Well, she posted on X that she only does 1 or 2 long runs a month. And I tell you, if it's good enough for Camille Heron, it's worth me taking a second look at. But I also have to consider that Camille may be on a different level than me, and possibly you. I mean, she does have the female world record for running 100 miles in 12 hours and 41 minutes. And she has the furthest distance run in 24 hours at 167 kilometers. And I don't know who's counting, but she also has the world record for running the furthest distance in 48 hours, which is 270 miles. So yes, it would take me around 4 months to cover what she covers in 2 days, but it's still worth thinking about. She only does 1 or 2 long runs a month. Now the point is that you don't get rid of your long runs. You're not going to eliminate them completely. Camille Heron still does her long runs once or twice a month. She just doesn't do them back to back. Like, she doesn't do them every week because she lets her body recover. And maybe that is worth a second thought. But the main selling point for this, at least for me, or how I look at it, is that I'm a recreational runner. It's highly likely that if you're watching this, you are also a recreational runner. And you've probably got other things going on in your life besides running. And if you do, perhaps at least sometimes you might not be able to go out for 2 or 3 hours at a time on a run. And if that's the case, I think it's pretty good to know that we can get the same benefits by spreading that long run out at least over 2 runs. But then of course there's the whole thing about specificity. And if you're running a certain distance, or if you're training to race a certain distance, I can see how you might want to run a certain distance in order to train appropriately for it. Don't you think? Like, if I'm training for a marathon, I don't want to only have run 10 miles. Like, that doubt will start to creep in if I did that. So next up, we're going to talk about some undeniable benefits of the long run. And I did get this from another article, and of course, I'll place those 2 links in the show notes below. Okay, the first benefit of the long run is that it contributes to your weekly volume. Now, I don't know about you, but some of us may have a goal in order to cover a certain distance in a week. I know that I set my limit at about 50 miles a week. Most of the times I make it. Sometimes I don't. When I don't really think twice about it, but I like having that goal there. The second benefit of the long run is that ultimately you become better and you become stronger. When we run for a long time, we have adaptations. We become more efficient because we're doing something for longer. Basically, we're teaching ourselves to endure. Our muscles, our tendons and ligaments are all going to get stronger. Basically, it pays to do hard things. Next up, it improves your mental strength. And this, I think, is the biggest one. Now, I like to say that bored people get bored. And I get a lot of people telling me when I tell them that I'm going out for a run or I've been out for a run, they say, don't you get bored? No, I don't get bored. I mean, sometimes I get bored, but I like to tell myself I don't get bored. And that's because of the long run. It's teaching me how to deal with that boredom. And I develop that mental strength, which hopefully will pay off on race day. Now, another benefit listed in the article is that you can treat yourself more. Now, yes, this is true. I know that when I go out for a long run, I do feel like I can eat more. Perhaps I'll have another bowl of ice cream. Maybe I'll have dessert after breakfast. I don't know, but I don't really agree with this. I don't think we should be ultimately running so we can eat. I know it's a joke in the whole running community that we run just to keep our weight down, or we run so we can eat pizza, or we run so we can drink beer. But really, that's not the best way to go about it, is it? I mean, if that's how you approach running, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Do you run so you can eat? I guess I definitely eat more when I run more, but I don't run more so I can eat more. The next benefit of the long run is that it gives you a feeling of accomplishment. Now, I hope you are feeling somewhat accomplished when you go out for all your runs. Even if it's just like a 15-minute easy run, if that's all you had time for, then you should have a feeling of accomplishment when you come home. But with a long run, it's even more accomplishment. And it boosts your confidence. And this is what we're talking about when we're training for specific distances. If you're running a half marathon and you go out for a long run and perhaps you cover 11, 12 miles, that's going to give you the confidence to approach your race, knowing that you can cover the entire distance. Like when I talk to people who are training to run a marathon, the main reason that they want to get to 20, 21, 22 miles is for that confidence boost, so they know they can do it. Okay, there are a lot of benefits. There may be some downsides to the long run too. I think maybe the benefits may outweigh them if we don't go too far and overload our bones. Remember, overloading our bones? But I'd love to hear from you. Do you like doing a long run? How often do you do them? And would you consider cutting back and maybe doing a long run once or twice a month? Let me know in the comments. All right, guys, thanks for staying all the way to this point in the video. If you have made it to this point because it's a long run, why don't you drop the ruler emoji in the comments, because a ruler is how we would measure a long run, I guess. Anyway, it's Matt B. This has been a video on the long run, benefits and the downsides, but mostly the benefits. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.